All right, let's go. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. The time is 4 o'clock on the dot for the September 9th regular city council meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
6 members are present with the noted excused absence of Councilmember Blum.
Okay. I think this is one of his first, so I guess we'll allow it. Now is the time for the invocation that will be led by Reverend Matthew Hambrick from the United Methodist Church. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me this evening. Let us pray. Our gracious and loving God, we thank you for the community we live in. We thank you for those who dare to lead. We thank you for our city leadership, for our elected leaders, for the police and firefighters, for the city workers, for those who lead from their businesses every day, and for those who call Newport home. We thank you for the many blessings of being a part of this community and for our amazing neighbors. We ask that this time of leadership and discernment would be used to help everyone here to flourish and to be well. May the work here in this place be for the good of those who live here. In grace and peace we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Councilmember Weber, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Now is the time for presentation. So I'll now read the September 2025 Hunger Action Month proclamation, followed by the presentation of the proclamation to Janice Sung, who's here with Second Harvest, I think an associate board member. So Ms. Sung, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I'll give you a moment to say something, and then we'll do a photo. Perfect. Okay, terrific. My favorite parts of being the mayor. Okay, whereas hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in California, where more than 1 in 5 Californians face food insecurity on a daily basis and do not know where their next meal will come from. Everyone needs nutritious food to thrive, and people are working hard to provide for themselves and their families. Yet over 359,000 individuals, including over 86,000 children here in Orange County alone, are food insecure. The city of Newport Beach is committed to taking steps to combat hunger in every part of our community and to provide additional resources that those in Newport Beach need. The city of Newport Beach is committed to working with Orange County Hunger Alliance in educating people about the role and importance of food banks and food care in addressing hunger and raising awareness of the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. In the first half of 2025, the Orange County Food Bank and Second Harvest Food Bank collectively recorded an average of 810,000 individual food distribution visits per month from our community members facing food insecurity. In the first half of 2025, both food banks have collectively distributed, is this right, 36 million pounds of food through its partner network of food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, senior centers, schools, college universities, houses of worship, and other community organizations. The month of September has been designated Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our communities and to enlist the public in the movement to end hunger by taking action, including volunteering, donating, and advocating to ensure every community and everybody in it has the food they need. Food banks and other organizations across the country, including the members of the Orange County Hunger Alliance, will host events throughout the month of September to bring awareness and help food insecurity and local community. I, Joe Stapleton, the mayor of the city of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire city council, do hereby proclaim September as Hunger Action Month. Congratulations for all you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that the city is taking and the effort the city is taking to alleviate hunger and to provide food for those who need it and in a dignified manner. I am a Newport Beach resident, and I'm very proud to say that I am. And I've also been a part of the food bank for the last 2 years. And it takes a collective effort to fight food insecurity. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Let's do a photo.
Just quickly.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you as well. I was able this week to attend the kickoff of Hunger Action Month at the Great Park this week with other electeds from around the county, and it was wonderful to be part of the kickoff of this nationwide campaign and see our community in action. And I just want to commend your organization for all the years and all the service that you provide to hunger awareness and combating hunger in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. It was our first year, and we look forward to maybe seeing the rest of you next year.
It was a great event and well attended by many electeds, and I know that you guys had a very successful outcome. So congratulations, bravo.
Well said. Councilmember Weigand.
Yes, and the no lunch too, if you wouldn't mind emailing my colleagues for that in November, I think they would find interest in that event as well.
It will be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, the week prior.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, let's do a picture.
And we can send it to you too.
Can I get brushes?
I'm one short. Oh, well, you didn't want to sit there. You didn't want to sit there anyway.
It's with a lot of responsibility. Okay. Okay. Here we are. The year of the history of the city of Newport Beach. Mr. Bill Abdallah, our historian laureate, is here this evening again. We started off in January in the 1870s, and here we are into the 1970s. And I'm so honored to have you here, Bill. Thank you for what you continue to do for our community as our newest and our first historian laureate. As part of our continuing historical presentation series, we're going to hear about the presentation on defeating the Coastal Freeway Plan. So the curator and founder of Newport in the Rearview Mirror, millions of followers and viewers online. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
This chapter, and from the vantage point of 2025, this is the craziest part of Newport history. It's almost unbelievable. And I think it's one of the two most pivotal points in the city's history. There was, are we going to be a commercial harbor or a pleasure port? And then are we going to have a giant freeway running down along Coast Highway? So let's take a look at this. So in the 1950s and 60s, freeways were king. They were kind of modern miracles. You can go from one place to another, no traffic lights, no traffic, really. And you can live in the suburbs, commute to your job in the city. Everybody, almost everybody, loved freeways back then. So in 1956, they passed this Federal Highway Act, tons of federal funds to build highways across the nation. California got some. The California State Highway Department, very ambitious, and they wanted to do a coastal freeway all up the coast. In Newport Beach, just to give you an idea, it was insane. So this is coming from Huntington Beach. It'd cross the Santa Ana River. There'd be a 35-foot high berm that the freeway would run across. This isn't like a 2 or 3 or 4 lane. This is a 6-lane freeway coming through, 8 lanes in some areas. So you can see Newport Shores, all the businesses would have been wiped out. Part of the Newport Shores community would be wiped out. It'd run right in front of Hoag Hospital. At the Newport Boulevard and Coast Highway, there would have been a 5-level interchange there. It would run through, it'd also run through, we'll get to it in a second. At the corner of Dover and Coast Highway, this area right here where Castaways is right now, there was a commercial center there, very popular, Will Wright's Ice Cream. There was a bait and tackle shop. That got condemned for the on-ramp or off-ramp of the freeway. all of Cliff Haven either would have been knocked down, or at least Kings Road and maybe the next road over would have been knocked down. Would have come across, wiped out Newport Dunes, another 5-level interchange at MacArthur and Coast Highway. It would then go in Chronomar, go up to where 5th Street is. There would be a freeway through there, no Oasis, no Harborview Elementary School. Is that what and then it would, for some reason, it would go down 90 feet below grade and go up to where Buck Gully is. There'd be a giant bridge across Buck Gully and then down to Laguna Beach. Amazingly, the city council voted 6-1 to approve this freeway. It was a done deal. They're doing eminent domain. A lot of properties got seized by the state or taken by the state. So this thing was, I mean, it was everything that the bulldozers have started on this. At the last minute, started to be, in the early 70s, that environmental movement, and one of the leaders of this freeway fighters was Duffy's dad, Marshall Duffield Sr. But a lot of them were people that, like Harborview Hills South, they realized that there's going to be a freeway going through their backyard. And so they rose up and tried to fight this thing that was already sort of a fait accompli. And this is one of their, so they got enough signatures on the petitions, forced a special election. It was an advisory vote. That vote passed by 85%, probably not surprising. And after the vote, and before the vote too, but the leaders went up and lobbied state and federal officials. Newport Beach, even back then, had a lot of sway in the state because of the money that comes out of here for elections. And Newport wasn't the only city that tried to fight this, but they really worked hard to kill a project after this vote. A few months afterwards, the state did abandon plans for the freeway. This is a good old daily pilot. Being former editor of this paper, I want to point out that it was 46 pages on a Friday. So now I think it's 2 pages, 3 times a week or something. So kind of sad. 10 cents, yeah, it's a bargain. So a few months after the vote, Governor Reagan signed a bill that banned all freeways along the coast. It's a huge victory for Newport Beach and a huge victory for, I think, California. And then I always end up with I'm trying to end up with a fun fact, so it's not super. This is actually a great ending, but usually they're kind of depressing. So fun fact today is, when you drive to Santa Barbara, you go to Ventura, and there's that weird stretch of freeway on the coast. So that's the only part of the Pacific Coast Freeway that was ever built. So Ventura was apparently asleep at the wheel, but that's when you go down that freeway, you can bore your people in your car with that trivia fact. So there's Coastal Freeway.
That's crazy. Well, I think congrats. Thank you for doing that. I think oftentimes on council, especially during this history, we talk about the history, we talk about the people and the projects. We don't talk about things that didn't happen.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about things that did happen in the city and the people that were behind it. So I thought this was pretty cool to talk about something that would have changed the complete landscape of our community. And good for those who fought against it, and shame on that council who voted 6-1 when 85% of the residents didn't want it. So well said. That's great. Good job. Thank you, Mr. Aldo. Good job. Okay, fun. I think next, in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing the history of the Upper Back Bay, what could have been, and another place where another great organization that preserved the well-being for the Back Bay and the Upper Back Bay. Okay, now we're going to invite forward, he is right here, our fire chief, Jeff Boyles, and retired fire chief Dave Winokur from Exilo, who will be providing us a presentation on fire pathways. Additionally, Fire Marshal James Gillespie, the city's fire marshal, will also be available for any additional comments. So, Chief, the floor is yours.
I just saw Bill walk out. I was going to thank him. I learn something new every 2 weeks.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'm excited for this project. As you know, we've been talking about it for quite some time. Fire Marshal James Gillespie and his Fire Prevention Division have been doing a lot of work in the wildland space with regards to fuel mitigation with our partnership with Public Works CAL FIRE, etc. We have the AI cameras out in the wildland area with our partnership with UC San Diego, and this is kind of another innovative piece, if you will, that we entered into a contract with Chief Winokur, retired Chief Winokur here. So what he'll do is go through some of the wildfire risk assessment, and I'll just kind of summarize, and then he'll go through the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. But what this does is gives us a good look operationally of where we can best place units in the event of a fire in some of our wildland-prone areas. The computer modeling takes into account different weather patterns, wind patterns, topography, where the houses are laid out, neighborhoods are laid out, things of that matter. So I'll let Dave, Chief Winokur, take over. He's a lot taller than I am, standing over my shoulder here. But I think you'll be surprised and pleasantly surprised at some of the outcomes that he's going to introduce here. So without further ado, Chief Winokur.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity. We're going to run through a look at the wildfire conditions that exist in and around the city of Newport, as well as the vulnerabilities that could allow a wildfire to transition into an urban fire. As we saw in LA in January, there are wildland fires that burn in vegetation, and then there are wildland-initiated urban fires where fire moves into dense structures, and now structures are the fuel most likely to carry the fire. Two very, very different fires and require different approaches to mitigation. If there are any questions, happy to answer them in stride or when we get to the end. This is the agenda for today. So to introduce the concept of fire pathways, fire is driven by topography, fuel, and weather. That's it. Those are the only three inputs. The outputs, however, there are a number of different ways you can look at them, but the output that is most frequently correlated to large-scale structure loss is fire speed, the speed at which fire is spreading over the landscape, and the pathways that speed-based modeling develops to give us an understanding of where fire will enter the community. When we see a fire perimeter at the end of a fire event, it looks like an amoeba with relatively contiguous exterior lines. That is a product of fire having filled in after the fact, which is an artifact of fire suppression and control lines. But during the actual event, fire makes runs where topography, fuel, and weather get into alignment and allow fast-moving fire to transit. Of note, 4 fires, all fast-moving wind-driven fires that became urban conflagrations, account for 50% of the structure losses since 2006. And 78% of the structural losses in the American West in the last 20 years have been in the initial operating periods of fast-moving wind-driven fires. So the point here is that if there is a fire that is not going to threaten our community, it is of lesser concern and a lower priority. And this methodology and this approach is useful for prioritizing the mitigations that will most likely prevent fire from transitioning into the built environment. And the way that works, as you see here from left to right, we have a vegetation-based fire that can be mitigated with things such as fuel breaks, splats, pods, other treatments that modify vegetation that can slow fire's advance. And when those fire pathways encounter the built environment, if there are vulnerabilities at those houses in the points of transition, we can see a vegetative fire transition into the built environment. This is where mitigations such as defensible space and home hardening are effective to slow that transition. And lastly, having made it through a point of transition, an urban fire is now capable of spreading from home to home. And at that point, really the only mitigation effect we have is to break up the continuity of homes, i.e. reduce the fire conflagration blocks, which is simply not available to existing legacy communities. That is a new construction feature where you could compartmentalize the community. So working our way upstream to the things that we have control over, this approach identifies those mitigations that you have the ability to carry out, and then the location and the prescription or the manner of executing the mitigations that will be effective and measures the result of that work. So what that looks like in your community. We started the assessment by looking at the winds and the associated weather conditions that are capable of supporting extreme fire behavior. On the top right, you see the rows. We have a north-northeast wind event. That's a Santa Ana, which we're all familiar with. And then we also have a west to east wind, which is what dominated the coastal fire in this area a couple of years ago, where we had dry air coming off of the ocean and fire moving from west to east. So we generally have 2 fire scenarios, north-northeast Santa Anas and west to east with dry air coming off of the ocean. So to identify the conditions we are looking for, we used the historical record going back 10 years. We down selected for those periods when live fuel moisture levels were low enough that the vegetation was available to burn. We further down selected when there were sustained dry periods so that both live and dead fuel levels were available to burn. And then lastly, we looked for dry wind events that occurred during those sustained dry periods when live fuels were cured. And that gave us the fire weather winds that are capable of supporting extreme fire events. In your area, the fire history includes the Laguna Fire in October of 1993, as well as the Coastal Fire in May of 2022, going in opposite directions. So we looked at conditions that mimicked what was in effect on the day these fires burned, because we have history supporting rapid fire spread under those conditions. Your fire threat from the eastern area open spaces, on the top right you see red lines, those are the ignition lines. So we drew an ignition line and we ran fire from those points. And under those weather conditions, this being a north-northeast, this is how we would see fire spreading. Of note, Highway 73 acts as a very durable and resilient fire break, a non-combustible material, and largely isolates your community from the potential for fire coming farther from the northeast. However, to the east of 73, there is significant opportunity for ignition in those open spaces along the roads and subsequent fire spread along the gullies, where we would see alignment with those north-northeast winds and significant amounts of cured decadent brush that could carry fire. We also took a look at an interior ignition, so not something along the roadside, but a smaller ignition that occurs in the interior areas and where that fire could spread, once again under those north-northeast wind events shown in the red arrow on the top right. We identified where there were points of entry for that ignition and those fire pathways into the existing communities. And then, as we'll talk about in the next section, we looked at the efficacy of the existing mitigations in the form of the FMZs that your fire department has been requiring for years. We also took a look at ignition going with a west to east wind. What would happen if there was an interior ignition going the other way, and where those fires were likely to transition into the built environment. And then lastly, we took a look at how all of this would come together. So these are areas where we would expect, shown in orange, where we would expect to see fire enter that point of transition, the entry points where vegetative fire meets the built environment and could transition into a structure fire. Of note, shown in purple there, those are existing fuel management zones that your fire department has been requiring for years that effectively interdict almost all of the north-northeast ignition lines, meaning that as fire moves through the vegetative environment, the ground component of fire, the linear progression of fire from one combustive item to another, is interrupted by the FMZs that surround the built environment. There's additional work addressed in the next slide having to do with ember cast, but the ground component of fire is effectively interdicted by the existing FMZs. The associated work to address the threat of ember cast, which was a precipitating factor in both the Palisades and Eaton, is considered prioritizing home hardening and additional defensible space work in those homes that back up to the FMZs. So that as fire approaches and the ground component is interrupted, and we've decoupled those homes from the surrounding ground vegetation, defensible space and home hardening acts in concert to protect those homes from ember cast. And if homes are protected from both ground component and ember cast, homes don't ignite. That frees up the fire department to deal with other potential ignitions inside the interior of the community or to mitigate the flaming front itself, since the homes are protected. We also took a look at the possibility of interior ignitions along Buck Gully. So these are areas where there are not fuel management zones because of the age of the community. And from an ignition in that area, and this model is running on both vegetation as a fuel and structures as a fuel. So this model is accounting for structural ignitions, shown in the bottom left, based on a vegetative fire that now gets into the homes, and we now have structure-to-structure urban fires spreading through the community. And as we can see, particularly with the steep slopes coming out of Buck Gully, should there be an ignition in these interior islands, there's the possibility of that fire rapidly transitioning into dense parcels. That leads to recommendations for how to mitigate this. So moving from right to left on the slide, recommending that there be additional emphasis placed on defensible space and home hardening in those newer communities that have the fuel management zones to reinforce the FMZs in those existing communities. And then along the northwestern flanks of Buck Gully, considering defensible space and home hardening, outreach education, and incentivization for those homes that immediately front the gully, so that you've used the homes in place of an FMZ. So if you had the ability to go back in time and require a fuel management zone, I think everyone would agree that would be a good idea. But in the current environment, rather than creating an FMZ, moving the vegetative edge from the structures, we can harden the structures and the yards so that as fire comes up out of the gully, it encounters non-burnable features and is unable to transition into those first homes. Specifically, defensible space, which I think everyone understands, is the reduction of combustive vegetation in the yards, inclusive of Zone 0, which is an ember-resistant zone within 5 feet of the structure, Class A roof coverings, ember-resistant vents, and no combustible fences in Zone 0. That combination of things is very effective when it includes defensible space at preventing the transition of fire out of the gully into the community. And we ran a model recommending or identifying how in this particular area, on the left you see the current state if there were an ignition in Buck Gully that outpaced the firefighting response. And on the right you see a future state in which those homes have been hardened, and you see the ROI on how many homes not ignited with defensible space and home hardening in that work. I understand this slide is somewhat grim. I would say the good news here is that your city and your building department, your fire department have proactively considered fire for many years. And the implementation of FMZs and a progressive fire code over the years means that a very small amount of work will complement what has already been done and will essentially unlock a comprehensive wildfire adaptation and resiliency approach that will significantly reduce the risk of large-scale ignitions. I will hold there in case there might be any questions.
I would like to bring in public comments if there are any. Is there any comments up here on the dais from council members? Okay. Great presentation. Does anyone from the public want to make any comments or questions on this item? Okay. Seeing none. Councilmember Grant?
Well, I'll just say thank you. That's a very intense presentation, and while it's very compelling, it's also very reassuring because it sounds like from a proactive standpoint, our team here, that, like, as you said, our Public Works and our fire department, our fire marshal especially, have been working very hard on exactly this and finding better avenues to public safety for us. So thank you for the presentation. And I guess my only question would be, like, next steps. I think maybe Fire Marshal Gillespie has some ideas that he wants to share with us. But again, this is very compelling, and we obviously want to make sure that we're using this information to the best of our ability to protect our community. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, oh, sorry.
I just was going to say, I mean, the biggest takeaway is our residents have to do a good job of making sure they have the dispensable space, to protect the spread, because your modeling shows that if it hits the other houses, it's more likely to spread quicker and faster, and our guys can't respond to it. But if it's only pockets here and there, then our guys have that ability to get quickly. So I just want to stress that if anyone's watching this, that try to contact the fire department and say, hey, is my home safe, secure, and ready to be preventing fire to go to my neighbor's house. And I think that's why we have so many codes. That's why the state says every year our community development department, our planning, our building inspectors, everything has to be done to a certain way, not just because of your home, but because of the home next to you. And we want to protect everyone. And that's why we have all of these to other people that are confused with so many codes, silly codes, but they're there for a reason to protect not just you, but your neighbor. So I think it's important that we study this and continue to monitor that and help our residents make the right choices and decisions.
If I may, sir, I think in many ways there's a good news story in that you have done all the things having to do with FMZs and fuel management and firefighting response. That already has been done. That's a great news story. That's not the case everywhere. The bad news story is you're about at the end of the line of the efficacy of more work in that domain. And the complementary work of defensible space and home hardening on private property is really all that's left to unlock a comprehensive wildfire adaptation program.
Okay.
And with
City
doing that
manager.
work, I would like to ask Fire Marshal Gillespie to come up and talk a little bit. We've gotten specific grants, particularly around the Buck Gully area, and the work we're doing right now to continue to build upon that. So if you can speak to that a little bit. Thank you.
Absolutely. We are actually going through our CEQA process right now for our grant along Buck Gully. So that particular zone that was recommended that you saw that was on your left side of the slide, we do have a grant that's going to run that entire area to create a 100-foot buffer from the parcel line out into Buck Gully, clean it up, get the non-native vegetation, the dead and dying, limb up trees, spray space shrubs. And we're going to do that with Public Works and maintaining that in perpetuity. It's going to be, like Chief Winokur said, also the part of the homeowners. We're going to do so much to get to where we can get, but we're going to run to our limit. There's a couple other treatments recommended in the overall plan as well with the executive summary that we've already been in talks with Public Works to get those actions performed to really take advantage of this information, rank and file it, and make sure that activity does result in an outcome.
Do you want to talk, Fire Marshal Gillespie, about what we've seen in Buck Gully? You and I toured some of the homes, some of the residents, and what's being done on a residential level
Certainly.
to harden their space. And
So we provide a full free wildfire assessment service for all of our community members, and we've worked with many homeowners to do that, but it's going through and assessing that defensible space, the siding of the structure, the vents on the structure, the roof type, the windows, zone 0, as Chief Winokur spoke about. And while zone 0 is not required by regulation or by law today, it will be coming, and then the insurance companies are already asking for it. So we provide that for free. We've already had a lot of homeowners take action. We've had council members take action, and it's been, but we can do that. Buck Gully specifically, lower Buck Gully, kind of focusing on that home hardening would be the best part, but the rest of the city, that's our priority, is really educating homeowners on things they may not know regarding that.
okay, Councilmember Grant.
I would just also mention that we have had some residents in the community that have reached out on a similar topic that maybe this is the entree into, which is taking this information about modeling and all the information that you provided and created for us, and then moving more into the direction of sharing that with our community about how, if we were to have an event of this magnitude, how we would be treating the evacuation routes, how we're preparing our community for evacuation or for other response in the event of these occurrences. So I know that that's not a conversation exactly for tonight, but this seems like the entree into that next level of making sure that we're entirely prepared, not just on the FMZs and on the home hardening, but also the response when we do have an event of a certain magnitude, whether it be a fire or some other event.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments up here? Okay. Well, thank you, Fire Marshal Gillespie. This is terrific. I know you're on the front lines and you're doing a great job continuing to move the city forward. And Chief Winokur, thank you for all you've done to help present this. And we're going to do all we can to protect the residents. So,
Thank
terrific.
you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Very good. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read the notice regarding public comments on agenda and non-agenda items.
The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are invited on items listed on the agenda and not agenda items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items.
Okay, terrific. Now is the time for council announcements or reports from council members on committee activities, and the time for council members to request an item to be placed on a future agenda. Councilmember Wigan.
I do not have any this evening.
Councilmember Bartow.
Just that I attended International Literacy Day, and that was a really fun full circle moment since I began my work in the city as a after-school employee with the library. So that was really fun to be part of that. And then attended the movie in the park on Friday.
Very nice. Councilmember Grant.
A few things to mention. I was able to attend the inaugural event presented by the Friendship Shelter of Laguna Beach. They not only operate a shelter in Laguna Beach, but they also operate about over 100 units of permanent supportive housing in South County. And they have an amazing record in the last year of 100% retention of their permanently supportive people that are permanently supportive housed, which is an amazing metric given that that isn't true pretty much anywhere else that I understand in our nation. I was lucky to learn more about their permanent supportive housing, and the reason that that's relevant for us is that we are looking for regional solutions here in Newport Beach and in our county, and the work of the Friendship Shelter is able to provide an opportunity for us to reunite homeless individuals in our community with their families and friends in their South County communities if this permanent supportive housing is successful. So it's a good opportunity for us to find a regional solution, and I'm glad to support the Friendship Shelter in that effort. I also attended International Literacy Day with a lot of my colleagues, along with Councilmember Bardo up here, honoring learners and tutors in our library's PAL program, Project Adult Literacy Program, very successful program. and very easy to support. And finally, today I was at the OCTA in Anaheim for an Express Lanes field experience, learning more about the operations of the 91 lanes and their connecting people and jobs around the county. And certainly that's a benefit to our community as people do come from other parts of the county here to work and play and visit. So glad to have the 91 lanes operating so efficiently. Thank you.
Well done. Councilmember Weber?
None.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman?
No report.
Okay. I just want a few things. I did also attend the ribbon cutting or the groundbreaking for the Travel Lodge in Costa Mesa, like Councilmember Grant talked about, regional effort that we're all working on to provide permanent supportive housing. The Literacy Day celebration was phenomenal. I also attended Diamond Wish. It's a ribbon cutting for new business here in CDM Plaza. So if you're looking for some diamonds, I recommend going over there. It was incredible. They had a 10-carat necklace for millions of dollars. So good for them. Tomorrow night, the Commodores Club is hosting the 27th annual Fire and Lifeguard Appreciation Dinner. I'm assuming I'm going to see all my council colleagues there and a lot of people from the community. So kudos for the chamber for celebrating almost 3 decades of our first responders here in the city with our public safety and fire and lifeguards. Finance committee meeting this Thursday in the room next door at 3 o'clock. And finally, this will probably maybe my second to last report when it comes to what I'm doing this Saturday, but it is the 10th annual Ben Did Go, so a great opportunity for Newport Beach to turn a tragedy into a legacy, to represent and celebrate the life of Ben Carlson, who made the ultimate sacrifice 11 years ago in July. So I'm joining 132 fellow paddlers. We're going to make the journey from Catalina, from Avalon to Newport Pier, so we should be landing if all things go according to plan, sometime between 1 and 3 o'clock on Saturday at the Newport Pier. So if you guys have nothing else going on, help come carry me out of the water. Hopefully I make it. I've told enough people where I have to finish, so we're going to have a good time. Chief Boyles will be on the support boat with our Harbor Master, Paul Blank, supporting us across the 30-mile open ocean journey. So thank you both for your support. No city finances are being used in this endeavor, as a footnote. So we are proud of this effort. And I think we've raised over $400,000 now for the Ben Carlson Foundation. So it's been a wonderful thing, and hopefully it'll culminate in a lot of success this Saturday at the Newport Pier around 2 o'clock. So with that, we have one matter that was brought forward by Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman per City Council Policy A1. Council members may bring forward to matters of consideration, and if approved by a straw vote for the council, staff will return with a report on the matter at a later meeting. The item up for consideration is the following. Consider initiating a comprehensive review of regulations related to smoking and nitrous oxide, including the sale, distribution, and use of flavored tobacco products and nitrous oxide, and you can read the rest. So I'll look for a straw vote for everyone to approve this A1 item.
Just real quickly,
Yep.
you need to take public comment real quick.
Okay, I'll take public comment on this item. Thank you, Mr. Mosier.
Thank you, Mayor Stapleton, and members of the council for allowing this opportunity for public comment, which I believe is required by the Brown Act before you take action on anything. This is an extremely long recommendation that you're being asked to take a straw vote on, and I would point out that it's not clear from it, at least it's not clear to me, since this is a vote on a future agenda item, are you voting that future agenda item will be to consider initiating a comprehensive review, or do you think by taking a straw poll on this, you're actually today initiating that comprehensive review, and that the staff recommendation will come back fully baked at a future, probably on a consent calendar? That's happened in the past. I think you should make that clear. And then the second point I wanted to make, part of this has to do with regulating flavored tobacco use, sale, distribution, and use. And I could be wrong about this, but Google tells me that in 2020, the state legislature, who you sometimes don't like what they do, actually passed on a statewide basis a ban on the sale and distribution for sale of flavored tobacco products, and the tobacco industry fought that with the referendum, but the voters of California affirmed the legislation, and Again, the industry tried appealing that to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court declined hearing their appeal, so to the best of my knowledge, the sale and distribution for sale of flavored tobacco products is already banned in all of California, so I'm not quite sure what you're trying to do there, unless you're going to try to regulate personal use of somebody who gets it without a sale, which some of you, I would think is kind of governmental overreach. But in any event, I mostly am interested in what you think you're voting on, whether you're initiating the review now or bringing about an item to consider the review. Considering the magnitude of this, I would suggest the better thing to do is to bring back a study session so the proponent can explain what the issues are, and you can give staff direction on what you want to do and not be forced to do this particular thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments on this item? Okay, I can't really talk about it, so Mr. Harp?
Just briefly, so this will be, if it passes, it will be coming back on the 23rd for consideration. And the state law that he references basically says that the city can be more restrictive than the state law. So in this situation, it would be inapplicable.
Okay, terrific. Seeing other public comments, show of hands.
Straw vote carries unanimously by those members present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the notice regarding public comments on the consent calendar items.
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion, and these are items 1 through 20. Public comments are also invited on consent calendar items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and/or removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Okay, terrific. Councilmember Weigand, do you have any items to pull from the consent calendar or conflicts to announce related to items 1 through 20?
I do not, but I'm going to voice a no on item number 4.
Okay, no vote on 4. Okay, but not pulling it. Councilmember Bartow?
Nothing.
What's that? None?
I don't have anything.
Councilmember Grant?
None.
Councilmember Weber?
I have a conflict of interest on agenda item number 10 due to my personal residence.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
None.
Okay, and I have none. Do we have a motion?
I move the consent calendar, including amendment to item number 1, minutes, and noting the following conflict of interest. Agenda item number 10 by Councilmember Weber based on her interest in her personal residence, and noting Councilmember Weigand's vote no on agenda item number 4.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, Councilor Weber seconds. We will now have public comments on consent calendar items number 1 through 20.
Good afternoon, Adam Leverance. I wanted to speak to the minutes from the last regular meeting. Looking at those, if you recall, for the resolution 2025-55, which was the Ford Road Townhomes appeal, the minutes indicate that there were 21 speakers in support of the appeal and 2 in opposition to the appeal, in addition to the representatives from both parties. The minutes give no indication of what those 23 people said. I see that as problematic. I mean, to me, I'm a historical research guy, and I like data and looking at old newspapers. And a number of years from now, people are going to look back, and maybe the audio won't still be there. But I think it's important that the minutes reflect people's concerns, at least on some level. And in those same minutes, as in previous meetings, there's note that, you know, many of the city's problems are the result of Sacramento. And it mentions the mayor noted that the threat to Newport Beach comes from Sacramento. And at that last meeting, it was pointed out that the regional housing needs assessment from Sacramento was 4,845 units, but yet mayor and council at the time increased that by 3,300 units. So there's a lot of people that think some of the threats coming from right here at home. On consent item 3, related to pedestrians walking on medians, I looked at satellite image of the peninsula today. There are some places where it appears that for a person to park in the median and get to a crosswalk, they're going to either have to balance on a curb or walk in the street or cross without a crosswalk. And the peninsula, as you know, is very dangerous a lot of the year. And so I think some thought needs to be put into that rather than just making it unlawful. And you see people with coolers and boogie boards and kids. Who's going to enforce this if a kid steps on the dirt? I mean, are the police going to do this, or the parking control? And is there going to be a vehicle stop of an official to do that? It just seems like it might be creating more danger. I appreciate the desire to save expense in landscaping, but I think more thought needs to be put into it. And I appreciate Councilman Wygan's no vote on number 4, climbing and railings and such. I've sat and had lunch at the Balboa Pier and seen hundreds of junior lifeguards run down the pier and jump over the rail. I mean, I'd love to do that myself, but I think I shouldn't. But if you make that law, there needs to be some exception for those types of things, which I believe Mr. Mosier mentioned. And then the 9 flock cameras, adding some more, and data retention going from 30 days to a year. These cameras have been super helpful, but I am still conflicted about feeling like an invasion of privacy, and I just want all that data to be secure. And that's it for consent for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Planet Thunderstriker. The USC Harbor thing. So Google just started training LLM how to understand dolphin speak. And it just seems, well, not even common sense. Our country doesn't really have a lot of foresight.
This is the time for comments on the consent calendar, not agenda items. Oh, okay. Is he?
Didn't you interrupt me last time when I'm trying to talk about item number 14 or 15, the USC Harbor thing that you guys did? This is the second time you've interrupted me. I didn't get any extra time last time, and if people are actually reading my comments, this is completely inappropriate with all the items that I have to deal with. With you guys, I'm either dealing with a dereliction of duty from the things that I discussed and submitted to you all that you haven't done yet, or because of this comment, what I'm going to be doing during the public comments, the email that I had to resend that you will either act on and my situation resolve, or there will be criminal infractions, and who knows what the police department is going to do. Now, am I allowed to finish speaking about the USC number 14 or 15 on this item that you guys are doing at the pier?
Continue, yes.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you. Just thank this whole council. So my point is what I was trying to present that would help this Newport community in the future, because you guys really need some help, would be the fact that because dolphins are being trained we're having artificial intelligence, more appropriately electronic intelligence, trained to understand dolphin speak. They could be coordinated throughout our shoreways all in our country for who knows what, a variety of things. And all I was just saying is I'm going to put that out there because right now, until you guys resolve my situation, that's the only platform I have. Resolve my situation, I'll be in the pretty high on the world's people most interesting ranking list, and I can deal with this later. But just thank you all so much for taking 3 minutes to listen to me.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Mayor Stapleton and members of the council, regarding the consent calendar, item number 1, the proposed revisions to the minutes from August 26, on the second page of those, where it revises a comment about your ex parte communications regarding the Ford Road homes. I'm pretty sure it should say that the ex parte communications were regarding matters described in the staff report. They were not matters described in the staff report themselves. Item number 3, you have before you an ordinance that the previous speaker mentioned. At the very least, it could be made much more concise and clear than the way it's presented. Item number 5, you have before you for adoption an ordinance that I believe contains errors in it that are going to be flagged by HCD if they read it carefully. Item number 10, you're being asked by city staff to waive your tree policy. I believe if you read our city charter, you'll find that the recommendation should be coming from the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission. Item number 18, you're being asked to approve a holiday schedule. The last page of that is the library schedule, and I would point out that that's under the jurisdiction of the Board of Library Trustees rather than yours, so it's just for you an informational item on that part, not an approval item in my opinion. And speaking of jurisdictions, I wanted mostly to comment on item number 7, which is the proposed adoption of a resolution opposing Proposition 15 and enabling legislation, I should say. What that has to do with jurisdiction, I remember a few meetings back, a member of the public was chastised for making comments to you that were not within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. I don't believe that rule applies to you yourselves. However, this matter has to do with congressional redistricting. It's a proposition on the ballot in November. I am not sure that congressional redistricting is usually a matter within the subject jurisdiction of a city council. The only specific item or connection that you make to Newport Beach in this resolution that I can discern is concern about the new district splitting Newport Beach into 2 parts, which the resolution will say will dilute our voice in Congress. And I would point out to you that there is a different way of looking at it if Newport Beach is split into 2 parts. And we have qualified, attractive candidates who are residents of Newport Beach in those 2 new districts. We could, in fact, have 2 voices in Congress over the one that we're currently allowed. So there's certainly different ways to look at this, and I'm not sure what you're planning to do with the resolution. You can't ask anybody to publicize it in the city staff. You can't present it to the registrar of voters. I don't really know what you're trying to do with the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there's public speaking on items 1 through 20 on the consent calendar. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back here. Any additional council comments? Seeing none, let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously by those members present.
Okay, City Clerk, will you please read the ordinances that have been adopted?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2025-19, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, California, adding section 11.12.140, climbing on railings of public property, and amending section 11.12.150, diving or jumping from public property of chapter 11.12, swimming regulations, to title 11, recreational activities of the Newport Beach Municipal Code relating to restrictions on diving, jumping, and climbing on public property adjacent waterways. 2025-20, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, California, amending section 20.48.200, accessory dwelling units of the City of Newport Beach Municipal Code related to accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units, PA 2025-0093.
Is that all? We good? Okay, terrific. All right, now's the time for public comments on non-agenda items.
Yeah, you play Thunderstrucker. So I'm going to start with that. This document I have is a printout of a screenshot of an email that didn't go through last session. This one, if you got it, you would either have to act on it and start resolving my situation, or be guilty of a criminal infraction. So the one went through to the special session that you were having, but not this one. So I resent this one, and I resent another one today. And I'm not sure exactly now what I should talk about. There's so many things that are appropriate to discuss, and a lot of more ample time would be appropriate when I'm dealing with national security issues. What that person interrupted me a couple weeks ago on is the music industry scandal. And I've sent the song connections in the comments couple weeks ago and also now. And we're going to get better because I don't think I'm not going to be here in 2 weeks. And so I think the community needs to know that I'm under the impression you're probably already guilty of dereliction of duty, probably even before the first day that I walked in here, because this is going on in other places where I've been speaking between here and Santa Barbara. When you're dealing with why Taylor Swift switched from country to pop, somebody who's victimized, who's fighting after 10 years for recognition of being a part of that, it's not a civic issue. And when you guys don't do anything, when some of my emails don't go through and other ones do on the same day, that's just pretty sketchy. So I just want to let people know that now. Unless you want to give me more time right now, I could talk offhandedly about things that are wholly appropriate to talk when you're dealing with national security issues, when you're understanding a lot more about social engineering and why a lot of things are going on.
Sir, you have to stick on topic of stuff that's in the subject matter jurisdiction of the council.
Yeah, and they could pass resolutions and ordinances to address that because he's the one that started it. I sent emails to the border cities that they could address, they could pass resolutions that what goes on at the federal level affects their community, that these communities can work together. That's something that's not necessarily under this jurisdiction or anything else, but this person did not know after 3 sentences what I am and I'm not going to talk about, but I'm saying that he probably knew why I was in this town in the first place. So do you want to give me more time and let me talk about anything I want, whatever I want, or no, I didn't think so?
Thank you very much. Any other comments on non-agenda items?
Adam Leverins again. I had some slides. Are those available that I submitted via online to the clerk's office?
We didn't receive your slides.
Interesting.
Apologize.
I guess I'll save it for next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Mr. Mosier.
Mayor Stapleton, members of the council, my name again is Jim Mosier, and a couple of things I wanted to comment about. I don't usually comment on non-agenda items, but I have noticed some changes in the way the council meetings are being conducted. One of them that the mayor seems to have directed is to put the closed session at the end of the meeting, which I think is a very good change. And I think probably the council policy should be revised to indicate that's how the meetings will be conducted. Some of the other changes are not, I think, quite so good. One of the reasons we hold the council meetings at this very early hour of the afternoon when much of the public is probably unable to attend is in past years, the early hour was used for holding study sessions. We had an item earlier about fire risks to Newport Beach, which had it been noticed as a study session item rather than a presentation with a little detail about what it was about to be, it might have attracted more public comment and attention. It used to be the rare exception that there was not a study session, but in the 16 regular meetings you've had this year, I could find only 5 study sessions. That change is a little not so good, I'm not sure. Another change is at the last meeting when you had an unusually, it used to be that the public could find printouts of agenda material in the lobby when they came to the meetings. At the last meeting when you had a 1,400-page agenda, copies were not provided to the public, only in a couple of binders that are in the lobby. Handouts were not available of public comments, other last-minute things that you received. I think that's not a good change. And I think at the very least, like later in this meeting, you're going to be holding a public hearing. There was a resolution that was not originally available with the agenda. The resolution you're going to consider adopting in connection with that public hearing is not even available for the public to see except in those 2 binders. It's not a good change. At least the public hearing items, You should have printed copies of all the comments you received about them and the agenda item itself, I think, for the public to see. And then finally, I appreciate all the historical presentations that you're receiving. The one today about the freeway fighters was interesting. I found it strange, though, that it didn't include the fact that the primary focus of those was to put an amendment in our charter so that future city councils, including yours, could not approve freeways in our city without a public vote. And it would be good to get an update on how it happened that we actually later got a freeway bisecting our city between the airport area and the rest of our city, and whether that charter provision actually protected us. Thank you.
Good comments. Any other comments on non-agenda items?
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Smith. On August 28th, I sent an email to the City Council. I proposed that the city purchase the golf course, the Newport Beach Golf Course, and turn it into a public municipal golf course. The benefits of doing this would be, 1, help secure and protect the area from future airport expansion. 2, preserve and maintain all current green, open space and zoning as is. 3, allow the more than 250,000 people of all ages and abilities to continue to use and enjoy the affordable 18-hole golf course and driving range as is, as has been done since the Newport Beach Golf Course opened in 1976. 4, it would stop a planned high-density housing project of 693 units on Mesa Drive at golf holes 3 through 8. It would stop building in a known flood zone. It would stop a significant increase in traffic in that area that would otherwise surely result from building 693 units. The city could and should immediately withdraw golf holes 3 through 8 on Mesa from its residential zoning overlay request with the California Coastal Commission. I respectfully request you consider this proposal and issue a response. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move into the public hearings. Item 21, ordinances number 2025-23, 24, and 25, the adoption of the 2025 California Building Standards Codes with local amendments, fire code, and wildland urban interface. Do we need a staff report on this, council members? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead to open the public hearing. Any public comments on this item? Okay, great. Not seeing any. And any additional council comments? Do we have a motion for this? Okay, we'll move staff recommendation by Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll second. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously by those members present.
Okay, next public hearing item, resolution number 2025-60, notice of intent to override Orange County Airport Land Use Commission's determination of inconsistency for the Stunk Harbor Surf Park Project, 3100 Irvine Avenue. For this one, I would like a brief staff report. So, Assistant City Manager. Okay, yeah. Assistant City Manager Simone Georges, would you please give us a report?
Thank you, Mayor Stapleton and City Council members. With me is Jocelyn Perez, Senior Planner. So we do have an item in front of you this evening. So this is in regards to the Newport Beach Golf Course. That property, that parcel that you see outlined in red, that is privately owned, and the property owner / applicant have submitted an application to the city to redevelop that property into a surf park. That item has been heard by the Planning Commission, and it's been heard by the Airport Land Use Commission. Follow through. So it was referred to the Airport Land Use Commission, and the Airport Land Use Commission has found it inconsistent. That was back in August with their land use plan. The item before you this evening is you're not voting on the merits of the application. You haven't seen any of the staff documentation with regards to the EIR or anything to that nature. The only thing that's before you is a resolution that you're going to send. If you approve it tonight, you'll send that. We'll send that over to the Airport Land Use Commission that you may intend to override them when this item actually does come before you on August 28th. So tonight's item is not the merits of the project at all. It's just a resolution that you're going to send to the Airport Land Use Commission that you may intend to override them. The actual override and the actual project will come before you for your consideration on October 28th. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, terrific. Any comments or questions by council members? Pretty clear what we're voting on tonight? Okay, great. Okay, let's go to open public hearing. Any comments from the public on this? Mr. Mosier.
Mayor Stapleton and members of the council, as you know, my name is Jim Mosier. Like many other people, I have concerns about the project itself, but the subject before you tonight is just whether or not you should adopt a resolution of intent to override the Airport Land Use Commission finding of inconsistency. During that process, you will receive additional letters, I believe, from the Airport Land Use Commission expressing their concerns, and probably from Caltrans and from other people. I wanted to point out that the airport management, which is separate from the Airport Land Use Commission, had already submitted a letter of concern about this intent to override, which was presented to the Planning Commission. I don't know that it was made available to you or not. One of their main concerns was about the potential occupancy, how many people would be at this site at any one time. In their letter, I think they had some confusion about what the number was, and the consultant from the applicant pointed out that in their report there would be a maximum of 388 people there at one time. However, that is under the normal operation of the facility, the surf park, and the proposed resolution that was being recommended to you by the Planning Commission, in addition to that daily use, which would peak at 388 people per day, or at one time, 388 at one time, that resolution allows 12 special events per year, and each of those 12 special events appears to have no limit on it whatsoever as to either how long it can be or how many people can be in attendance during that event. So even if there was confusion on the part of the airport management, there still is a concern, if this did not have limits on it, as to how many people are there and whether that complies with airport planning. And then, as is usually the case, if you do override the Airport Land Use Commission, as you probably all well know, that will relieve the county, who is the operator of the airport, from any liability for future issues, complaints, deaths, accidents, whatever might happen there. And logically, if the county is relieved of their liability, one would think that the liability would fall upon the city, who decided to override their concerns about the project. So those are my comments. As a result of those comments, I personally think you should not be overriding the Airport Land Use Commission and accept their determination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Adam Leverins. And kind of tagging along, didn't know what Jim was going to say, but as far as liability, there's a small airfield in Paris, California that's world renowned for skydive training and whatnot. I have friends who are really into that and have camped there and spent time there. At the end of the taxiway, there's a grove of trees with a bunch of monuments to people that died in a plane crash at the end of a runway. And if you put, the 300 and whatever numbers Jim said, but there's the special events and all this talk of bleachers, to put thousands of people at the end of a runway. I mean, airline travel is really safe, but the immense amount of risk and liability as opposed to open space golf courses with smaller numbers of people, I just think that's something that should seriously be considered, and going against people who work with airports and deciding that, well, maybe it's better to put thousands of people in a location like that. I just hope some thought goes into that as this moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comments on this item?
Thank you. Again, Mike Smith. On August 7th, the Orange County Airport Land Use Commission, which oversees the land use planning near John Wayne Airport, found the Snug Harbor Surf Project to be inconsistent with the Airport Land Use Plan. The Airport Land Use Commission's role is to ensure land uses near the airport are compatible with safe airport operations. I urge you to please do not vote to override their findings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public hearing. Any additional council comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll look for a motion from council. Okay, Councilmember Grant moves. Do I have a second? Okay, Councilmember Weber seconds. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously by those members present.
Okay, terrific. Now it's time to move into current business. This is item number 23, ordinance number 2025-21, authorizing an amendment to the city council's or the city's contract with CalPERS to eliminate section 20516A, cost sharing. This is the second reading. Does anybody up here need a staff report from City Manager Leong? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take public comments on item number 23. Okay, seeing none. Any additional council comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and make the motion. Do I have a second? Councilmember Weber seconds. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously by those members present.
Okay, item number 24, 5 citizen member appointments to the Aviation Committee. So before we move forward on this item, I just want to note that the most recent resolution amending the Aviation Committee's structure provides for 5 citizen members to be appointed by the mayor, subject to confirmation by the City Council. For the initial appointment under the new structure, I've decided to follow a process whereby the mayor's initial appointments are selected by and confirmed by the entire council. Also, before we receive comments, I would like to note that Mary Christine Sangalia, also known as MC, is the only applicant from Newport Coast and will be automatically appointed subject to City Council confirmation. Additionally, Jeffrey Cole has requested his name to be removed from the list. So there we go. Any council members have any comments on this item? Okay, we'll go to public comments on item number 24. 5. You got to confirm her. Oh, well then. Is MC supposed to be on this list? Are we confirming her, or do we need to vote it separately?
No, you'll be voting separately, Mayor, per your
Sorry,
script.
got that. Yep. Okay, so we'll be voting for her after. So just pick 4.
We only do 4 on this page.
Okay. Mr. Mosier.
Mayor Stapleton, members of the council, I'm a little unclear on what you're doing. The agenda said you're voting. It appears that you're voting, and I'm not quite sure how that squares with the statement that the mayor has made the appointments and you're confirming them. The comment I wanted to make, I think there was an error in saying that Ms. Sangalia is the only applicant from Newport Coast. I had looked at the applications. I think there were 23 or 24, and she may be the only one being nominated for consideration tonight, but there was at least one other applicant, Amber Snyder, who I know from the General Plan Advisory Committee, who is qualified. She is a helicopter pilot, and she definitely lives in the Newport Coast annexation area, and she definitely applied for this position. And your council policy normally requires that you consider 2 nominees for each position, and if that position is a position, it would seem you should be considering both of those applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this item? Okay, we'll go ahead and close that. Do you want
Probably best to just go ahead and vote for the Newport Coast a resident MC.
Okay.
And then maybe the term of 2 years, if you want to go ahead and vote for a term as well.
Yep, okay. So before we vote on all positions, as the only Newport Coast resident to be considered on the nomination list this evening, I move that we appoint Mary Christine Sangalia to the Aviation Committee for a 2-year term. Do I have a second? Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman seconds.
Mr. Mayor, can I just have a point of clarification to our city attorney? So Mr. Mosier's comment said that 2 have to come before us, but we can vote to, we don't need to take any formal action to override our council policy, or do we need to say we wish to?
Yeah, so Mr. Busher keeps raising these issues about the council policy. First of all, council policy doesn't have the force of law, so you can override it anytime you want as a council body, and by voting tonight, that's what it should be doing. The other person from Newport Coast wasn't nominated, and so you don't need to consider them or delay taking action tonight. You can go ahead and move forward. We've discussed this. We'll go ahead and update the council policies to make it a little bit clearer going forward once we get those updated. But there's nothing prevents you from going forward tonight.
Gotcha. And it doesn't require a motion to waive council policy. We can just vote on that with the motion that's before us.
It's basically
right now.
implied if you go ahead and move forward.
Perfect. I get it. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a first and I have a second with Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman for MC Sangalia, so let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously by those members present.
Okay, so as a reminder to my colleagues on the appointment process, our interim city clerk has provided the ballots. We have chosen 4 nominees. After we do choose the nominees, we'll then choose the terms for the nominees, for the appointees, and then finally, applicants must receive 4 votes to be appointed.
Councilmember Bartow has selected Kurt Belcher, Michael Radigan, Timothy Strader Jr., John Strandberg. Councilmember Grant has selected Kurt Belcher, Barbara Lickman, Timothy Strader Jr., John Strandberg. Mayor Stapleton has selected Kurt Belcher, Nicholas Prythurch, Michael Radigan, and John Strandberg. Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman has selected Kurt Belcher, Nicholas Prythurch, Michael Radigan, John Strandberg. Councilmember Weber has selected Kurt Belcher, Nicholas Prythurch, Michael Radigan, John Strandberg. Councilmember Weigand has selected Kurt Belcher, Barbara Lickman, Timothy Strader Jr., John Jack Strandberg. See how the selection with 4 votes would be. We're adding, thank you.
I'm glad you're paying attention.
Kurt Belcher has 5 votes. Michael Radigan has 5 votes. And John Jack Strandberg has 6 votes. We have to go to a round 2 to get the 4th.
So who's the other 2 that were? Yeah, so we got 3 already, so then.
You need 4.
Okay.
Cassie Bretschker was not selected, did not have 4. Barbara Lickman did not have 4. Nicholas Prythurch did not have 4.
Okay. All right, so we'll go another round. And then Strader did not have 4 either. Yeah. Thank you. Neck or next?
Councilmember Bartos selected Nicholas Pythurch. Mayor Stapleton selected Nicholas Pythurch. Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman selected Nicholas Pythurch. Councilmember Weber selected Nicholas Pythurch. Councilmember Grant selected Timothy Strader Jr. Nicholas Pythurch has been selected.
Okay, terrific. All right, now that we have 4 nominees, we'll vote on the terms, which include, did you have Councilman Wagon's vote in
Oh,
there?
I'm sorry. Councilmember Wagon, Timothy Strader Jr.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So, looks like Nick P. got 4 votes.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. All right, so now is the time to vote the nominees that will vote on the terms, which include a 2-year term for 1 citizen-appointed member who shall be eligible for reappointment for 2 additional 4-year terms. So this person would serve potentially 10 years, and then 3 citizen-appointed members who shall serve an initial term for 4 years and should be eligible for appointment to 1 additional 4-year term. To make it easier, let's vote for 1 member to have the 2-year term, and then once selected, the other 3 will serve the 4-year terms. So I'll go ahead and make a motion for the 1 citizen member who will serve the 2-year term be Mr. John Jack Stromberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman seconds.
I'll make an alternate motion to have Nick Prychurch be the person for the 2-year term, just due to the fact that that was a runoff.
My only thought is that the person actually getting the 2 years is going to get a potentially served 10-year term. So I thought it was more of a legacy opportunity for Jack, who's been serving on the Aviation Committee already. I thought it wasn't a slight. It was more of like you have an opportunity to serve 10 years as opposed to 8 years for someone who's serving 2 4-year terms.
Gotcha. So your recommendation would be to have that person.
So MC
before-
Sangalia and Jack would both be serving 2 years and then an opportunity to serve another 8. So they'd be doing 10 years as opposed to doing 8.
I'll withdraw it.
Okay. Terrific. Okay. That was my motion, second by Mayor Pro Tem Kleiman. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously by those members present.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so that's it on that, right? We've the other 4 will serve the others will serve the 3-year term.
Serve the remaining terms. Mm-hmm.
Okay, terrific. So we're good on that. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read motion for reconsideration.
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council at either this meeting or the previous meeting may be made by only one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Okay, terrific. Are there any motions for reconsideration? Okay, hearing none. Before we go to closed session, I would like to note that we are adjourning the meeting tonight in memory of Ted Smith. Tonight we adjourn in the memory of Ted Smith, a highly respected Orange County businessman, philanthropist, and community leader. Ted passed away peacefully at his home on August 14th, leaving behind a legacy of innovation, generosity, and service. Born in Washington, D.C., Ted studied engineering at the University of Maryland before serving in the U.S. Air Force. After leaving the military, Ted moved to Southern California, where he met his wife, Janice. Together, they built a life marked by professional success and deep community engagement. In the business world, Ted was a visionary. He led Basic 4, a pioneering computer company, and later founded FileNet Corporation, which became a global leader in document management technology before being acquired by IBM. After achieving success in business, Ted turned his focus to philanthropy and education. He served as the pro bono CEO and board chair of Mind Research Institute, helping bring innovative math education tools to students nationwide. Ted and Janice were also dedicated supporters of many local institutions, including UC Irvine, Pacific Symphony, the Segerstrom Center for the Arts, and the Bowers Museum. In 2005, their contributions were recognized with the Spirit of Philanthropy Lifetime Achievement Award. Beyond his many accomplishments, Ted will be remembered as a strong, decisive leader, a generous philanthropist, and a kind and devoted family man. He is survived by Janice, his wife of 68 years, his children, Nancy and Wayne, and their 3 granddaughters. Ted's vision, generosity, and spirit of service will long be remembered across Orange County and beyond. Okay, any public comments on closed session items? Okay, Okay, seeing none, City Attorney Hart, please announce our closed session items.
Thank you, Mayor Stapleton. The City Council will adjourn a closed session to meet with legal counsel regarding the case of Flores versus the City of Newport Beach, and to meet with the city's real property negotiators regarding negotiations with Dr. James Chu on behalf of CJJ Property LLC regarding the property at 9080 Talbot Avenue in Fountain Valley. That's on the agenda under item 22A and B. Thank you.
Okay, we'll stand adjourned. Okay, let's go. City Attorney Harp, is there a closed session report?
Thank you, Mayor Stapleton. There's no closed session report this evening.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.